Hi students, hope you all are doing well. Welcome to another exciting session of healthcare entrepreneurship. We are going to pick it up from where we left last time, so let's get started. There are some important distribution decisions which we should make when we are working on products. The first one is multiple channels. Should we have a few channels, one channel, two channel or multiple channels in which we are distributing the product, right? This is one decision point. Second is control versus cost. I am going to explain all of them like step by step. Third is intensity of distribution desired. The fourth is involvement or the amount of involvement in e-commerce. Let us look at it one by one. This is the multiple channel thing. That is the first distribution decision, which is some products meet the needs of both industrial and consumer markets. So, for example, I can have chips like Lay's. These are very easy examples to take rather than like talking about very specific medical products. That's the reason I am mentioning these examples. You know, like, so this particular product like this Lay's chips, which all of us can relate to, can be sold to the companies, can be sold to the retailers, can be sold to the end consumers, right? So, these products meet the needs of both the industrial markets as well as consumer markets. This meet the needs of hotels as well, right? So, let us say this company JJ Snack Food sells its pretzels, drinks and cookies using multiple channels through to supermarkets, movie theaters, stadiums, schools and airports. These are the different channels through which you are trying to distribute, right? So, here you have this important decision to make, whether my product qualifies for so many distribution channels or should I start with one or two channels, experiment a little bit, then roll out in different channels. So, these kind of decisions sometimes can really, if taken wrong, backfire. All of a sudden, if somebody is seeing that, so let's say, let's talk about this OneSoul's very niche insole products which I am trying to build for, let's say, the diabetic population, and I start selling this through a doctor's network. So, the doctor is having some margins and they are trying to sell these insoles for around, let us say, 3000 rupees, right? And all of a sudden I start selling online also. I want to sell this for 2000 rupees. Then I look at another avenue where I want to sell this from a retail store like shoe stores for maybe 2500 rupees. Then what is happening here? These channels are not properly synced, they are completely different channels. Some customer spreads this word of mouth that you are paying way too much by going to the doctors, right? It is available at almost half the price or much lesser price online, right? So, then they start buying online or stop buying this at all. It could happen so that they do not rely on this product, that this is based on some doctor's prescription or doctor's like expertise. They just think, oh, this is available online, so I do not care if I go to the doctor or not. This creates a very negative word of mouth about your company, right? So, this is an example where you have to be very, very careful about going for multiple channels just like that, right? And it is very common for us to take these wrong decisions, where we want to make sure, because we are so much into our product, we just want to make sure that our product goes out somehow or the other. So, be careful, take these examples as learnings and do not repeat those mistakes, right. So, you want to make sure that the channels are consistent, they have some sync, and it is not going to create any kind of horizontal or vertical conflicts, right. That is how you can select the multiple channels. The next example or next point of distribution decision is control versus cost. So, regarding this, all manufacturers and producers must weigh the control they want to keep over the distribution of their products against the cost and profitability, right. So, many a times you will have direct sales force where a company employees are expensive, you hire them and with their payroll, benefits and expenses may set sales quotas and easily monitor performance, right. Like, these are some of the examples, like this is a common example where you are trying to go to a coaching center like Career Launcher or any kind of coaching center. What they would typically do is they would interview you or have some kind of initial written test, like, and then like then give you some 20-30% scholarships, but they want to have a very strong control on this, that they want to make sure that they influence the students locally, and then they have them enrolled, right. So next is the example of Subway, like, which is a franchisee, right. These kind of franchisees, what they do is, the producers have just given the recipes, like KFCs, Apollo Pharmacies, these are franchisees, right. They have given the rights to these companies with a particular recipe and set of rules and regulations, that you sell these products with this certain quality standards, and we do not care how you sell or what you do. So there is a very big difference. You would see this, so many people are calling on your phone, I am calling from this ICICI, I am calling from HDFC, I am calling from this and that company. These are some common occurrences with my own life, not to take the names of any particular company, but this happens to all of us, right. We get so many sales calls, do you want to do some investment, you have some loans, or do you want to take a medical insurance, things like that, right. These are some direct sales where basically these people who are trying to sell, are their performance evaluation is based on the number of sales they can convert, right. So if they can get hold of 100 people through their cold calling, then they get paid accordingly or promoted accordingly. But the companies are basically placing a lot of money on these sales agents or people like that in order to do a direct sales, right. And then there is another model where you have just given everything to a company like Subway. So typically what the Subway model is, the company just takes the main parent company of the Subway, like they just take a certain cut, let's say 4% or 5%, whatever the specific value is, from the sales and revenue or the profits of the company, right, like profit of a particular retailer. Who are the owners of a certain Subway retail store? These are some people like us, some entrepreneurs who have paid some upfront money to kind of acquire the license from Subway, that I can now sell this or set up my franchisee. They are supposed to set up their have their own setup cost and things like that. So once they place that money, they can now use the brand Subway, sell their products, earn their profits, and just give a cut out of those profits to Subway. So all this procurement and other costs Subway has not now cut out. So all this procurement and everything else is the responsibility of the particular entity, right. So if you would think that is this KFC chicken coming from somewhere in Kentucky in the US, no, that is not what is happening. This is coming from local chicken only. Or this, if you are looking at any kind of pharmaceutical products, are these getting really developed in somewhere in Hyderabad? No, they are probably getting developed locally, right, and they are getting delivered, right, like at a local franchisee kind of a setting. So these are some important distribution decisions. One thing here is important, let's talk about the agents a little more. Agents typically work independently, running their own businesses, which are less expensive, less control. Agents sell product lines that make them more money. Shorter the channel structure, the higher the degree of control, and vice versa. So whenever you have a short channel length, we were talking about channel length as the number of intermediaries who are involved in the sales, right. When the company is directly trying to reach out. So one example with the Akash Institute, and so many institutes are trying to teach you for medical education. There are a lot of these agents who would be directly reaching you out to prepare for the exams for the medical or engineering entrance, or will promise you a seat and things like that, like, so they are doing direct marketing. So typically their cost is high, but the control is much more high as well, right. Another one is things like where the franchisee and these kind of things, the higher the degree of control. So it has a longer channel where you have a range of retailers, range of wholesalers, range of people who are, or intermediaries who are involved. The amount of control is much lower, like the Subway model or Apollo Pharmacy model. The amount of control is much lower, or in that particular case Apollo would still have some control because it is the same brand name which they are selling the product from. Think about the local pharmacies. You have no control as a manufacturer of pharmaceutical drugs. You have no control over these pharmacies, like how they are selling it or what their model is, right. But here you have really cut down on the cost as well, right. by doing this particular aspect. So, there could be an intermix of this control and cost. They are not always inversely proportional, sometimes they may be directly proportional as well, and there are cases where you have a higher control and probably a lower cost, right. So, Tesla is an example where you have a higher control, where you are directly reaching out to the consumers and a lower cost because you do not have to pay to the intermediaries, right. If I am trying to sell one souls through to a lot of consumers and I plan to go through online mode, I am going for direct sales, right. I have a higher control and I have a reduced cost. Otherwise, I will have to pay some costs of the doctors, some cuts to the hospitals and things like that, right. So, control versus costs, they are sometimes properly going together, sometimes they are out of sync, sometimes they are inversely proportional, but that is not the point. The point is, what do you want, how much control do you want as a part of your distribution decision, or how much cost you are ready to incur. Next point is known as the distribution intensity, where this term typically means that how widely a product will be distributed. Marketers want to achieve the ideal market exposure, determining distribution patterns. So, this is coming back to the example of how widely we want to distribute our product. Do we want to keep it confined initially to certain stores or certain specific intermediaries or retail segments, or do we want to just make this completely open ended, like where every shop like we are trying to make money out of, right. So, one example is like Dr. Scholl's insole. So, you would get Dr. Scholl's insole in a pharmacy also, you will get them in a shoe store also most likely, you will get them in several of the big retail super shopping complexes as well, right. So, they are quite widely spread. It is not like certain stores with Dr. Scholl's retail stores you are getting these insoles, or only with certain shoe stores you are getting these insoles, right. So, that is a big intensity of distribution. Medical supplies, big intensity of distribution. Specific implants, lower intensity of distribution. If you start making stents and every kind of implants or strongly regulated device available in the market so widely, then you will see a lot of copying and manipulation and things like that. People will start selling fake products, right. So, the distribution intensity has to be understood. Distribution, how much exposure you want to get for your distribution initially during the years of your entrepreneurial venture has to be determined, right. We want to always have an ideal distribution kind of market exposure, so that the target customers are properly aware of our product, they are buying, there is some organic buying, and of course, we are making some profits out of it, but we do not want to make profits on day one only. We want to keep on consistently making profits like for the upcoming years, right. So, to achieve market exposure, marketers must determine the distribution intensity. This is a point. So, you have this picture of these two people just staring at the globe on the right. They are trying to figure out whether I should launch this product only across a few countries or across worldwide, right, or in a certain zone in a country, or just widely distribute this. These are majority of the products which are going to be sold worldwide. So, even though your product is going to be sold worldwide, do you want to make them popular in certain regions of India first and then experiment? That will be lower cost and lower time commitments. So, if I were you, I am trying to make this really nice medical device based products, which is a wearable kind of product, and I want to make this popular. I would want to sell this first in Delhi, which is where I stay, and then probably make it popular a little in the regions around it, and then look at some other states if I can launch it. Then eventually make it to South Asian countries and then sell it globally, right. If you remember the Amazon model, so this is back in 2014 or 15, I was just trying to wonder because that time I was using Amazon a lot in the US, and in India Amazon was still not that popular, right? It was just coming in a few big cities, and it was still not that much popular. So, that time Amazon, how it looked up is it tried to look at certain segments, what is the intention, it experimented with its model for a while before they made it really mass scale. And now we know everything is history, right? Like how popular they are, right? Walmart, which is a big brand in the US, also tried to do something similar. I think they have also run some experiments. I know a few Walmart stores which are there in India. It did not become successful. So people started not really liking the way the Walmarts were positioned and things like that, right? And we have so much competition in terms of the supermarkets and other things which are there. So sometimes you want to make sure that your distribution intensity is very, very clear. Like I really found the Apollo model very smart, because they started looking at, like for example, this particular medication or over the counter medication is getting sold very quickly. Then they started making their own low cost system, and they've started experimenting their model a little bit, have a few of these items there, and all of a sudden now you see the entire shelf with that kind of item, because they have now gotten popular. So this is a very nice model where you adjust your intensity of distribution slowly and steadily, right? The lower the intensity of distribution, the higher the degree of control, and vice versa. So when you have a small or very low amount of distribution intensity, you have a higher degree of control. So let's say for Apollo again, if it is trying to sell this new kind of medication which is a high selling over the counter, and all of a sudden sees that people are not preferring the Apollo brand, right? Then what they can do is they can quickly take their hands back and then not put a lot of money into this and go away with it. Just keep on doing what they're doing there, being a pharmacy, right? But if you have already put too much of stake and intensity into it, like that every pharmacy has hundreds and pieces of this and an entire shelf dedicated to it, and then they find out that things are not selling, then it's a huge backfire, right? You have wasted so much of money and resources into these items and into the manufacturing, distribution, packaging, everything. This kind of backfiring, in order to basically not have, you want to make sure that you have the right control, low intensity, and start from there, right? So distribution and the distribution intensity has a very inverse relationship with the degree of control. So low intensity typically has a high control, and high intensity has a very low control. When you have sold your products to so many pharmaceutical small pharmacies and things like that, then you have no way of controlling this. This is a chain reaction, right? You have this new medical drug in the market, let's say new type of vitamin C, right? Many of us took a lot of vitamin C's like during the COVID times, and we still take it. So once this new vitamin C has come out like this with the nice effervescence and things like that, once I sell this into the market, it is gone. I don't have to think about it from the company standpoint, and neither does the market have to think about it from. But if something goes bad, then I have a huge loss to incur, right? So that's why we have to be careful while deciding our distribution intensity. So distribution intensity can be tuned optimally to lie between these two segments, which is intensive, selective, intensive and exclusive, and we can be selective, which is somewhere in between. Intensive distribution is where all possible intermediaries are served. This typically caters to the use of all suitable outlets to sell a product. The objective here is to complete market coverage, and the ultimate goal is to sell to as many customers as possible wherever they choose to shop. This is an example as iPhone. The brand is so big that you want to sell it through like people, sell it through stores, sell it through online, whatever you want to sell it through, it will still keep on getting purchased. Similar with a lot of these thermometers and glucometers, standard medicines which you can get just off online, like these kind of things you would place it in all the possible locations and they will get sold like a hot cake basically. Another example is motor oil is sold in quick lube shops, farm stores, auto parts retailers, supermarkets, drug stores, hardware stores, warehouse clubs and other mass merchandisers, right. So, if you need a motor oil or some kind of an oil for your car, you would find them in so many plenty of places, right. If you need a basic over the counter medicine like pain relief medicine like headache medicine, you would find this in every store, even in a gas station, right. These are very common. So, these kind of products you can sell through all possible intermediaries. So, think about you are developing this new product through your company which is a sophisticated wearable technology. Would you like to have an intensive marketing? The answer to that is no, right. You do not know how market is going to react with that product, right. So, you do not want to reach out to all possible intermediaries in that case. So, do not go for an intensive marketing. Second is selective marketing, where relatively few intermediaries are catered to. You have a limited number of outlets typically in a given geographical area and they are only used to sell a product. This is what typically I would like, like if you are operating from Delhi, you want to at least be able to sell this products to some pharmacies or some clinics in Delhi in order to say now that you can scale up or go out to the other states or outside the country. This is nice. It is very important to select channel members that maintain the image of the product and good credit risk, aggressive marketers and good inventory planners, right. So, what do you want? You want to test a model in a certain part like let us say in Delhi, and you want to try and test whether this product is selling well, and for this purpose you want to hire certain channel partners, distribution intermediaries and people like that, stakeholders who can help you distribute very efficiently. So, once you have learnt how to distribute well in Delhi, then you will be it will be very easy for you to distribute in other places, right. Goes with medical supplies as well. So, let us say you have this new medical instrument which is a surgical instrument, you will see so many companies having this new catalogs, very unknown companies. How do they get in? So, they typically want to connect with one or two channel partners, either try to become a channel partner through a hospital or use their contacts to somehow get their foot in the door, right. So, once they are a little known in a few institutes, so I will give you an example. There is this one company, I am not going to take any names, but so they are a very unknown company in Delhi. They want to sell this, this is known as a gait analysis product. So, this is basically used for understanding the human motion analysis, and based on that we can look at abnormalities. So, they have certain cameras and fixtures and things like that, right. So, this company comes to me and what they did was, I have never heard of this company, of course a startup, and they are trying to pitch for this particular set of products, and they said they can negotiate certain prices and things like that, and gave me like a package kind of deal on this, right. So, I took the quotations and kept it on the site, right, because it is an unknown company, I did not have the funds. Later on there are 5 or 6 other companies who have come in, who have offered the same thing, well at a much more lower cost or with a much more better efficiency of the products, right. So, I have this 6-7 quotations now lying in my office where I am looking at these products, and then what happens is like one of this company really showcases, like comes this extra mile by showcasing the product, and I really end up liking it, right. So, then what I do is I buy this product and at a very cutthroat cost, and probably the company is not making a lot of money out of it. Their actual cost of that product may be just a few lakhs, and they are also selling it for a few lakhs to me, and I am very happy as a customer. But what they have gained is, next time they are going for the different customers like me, they are trying to pitch that I have sold this to so and so professor and he really liked it. So, that has now added a lot of value. Okay. So, they have tested the market, done it right, they have created some little brand for them. Now, they are going to every professor and they are trying to say, I have supplied this device to so and so professors and they have this big gait lab, you can go and take a look. Now, everybody is convinced, oh, these people are quite well known in the field, so I might as well buy it, right. So, this is what selective, using the selective intermediaries. So, this company has basically used me as an intermediary to make their brand more popular, even though I am a customer, but as a customer they have taken me as an intermediary. So, sometimes these kind of things also happen. So, let us say you are able to market your product very well in Delhi, and it gets so popular in the Delhi group of like clinicians, they are definitely talking to people in Mumbai. So, next time when you visit Mumbai and trying to make the product popular, you take the examples of these kind of clinicians in Delhi. Now they will buy it because they know that these clinicians in the circle, right. So, whenever you do selective distribution decision, you are looking at a limited number of outlets in a given geographical area to start with, and then try to sell the product. Very important is to select channel members that maintain the image of the product, right. You should not look at salesperson who are together trying to market 5 different products which are in the same domain, right. And lot of this happens in these lot of these insurance based companies. So, you will have a lot of these insurance agents whom you would feel like they are from ICICI, but they are probably insurance agents for the LIC also, for Max Life also, for ICICI also. They are just trying to get the best deal and somehow make a buck, right. That is detrimental for the parent company, right. So, would you ever want an ICICI bank to hire somebody who is selling 5 different types of insurance by taking their package or taking their payment from them? No, right. So, as a company, as an entrepreneur also, we would not want that. We do not want to indulge or like involve ourselves with distribution partners who are trying to sell a lot of things in the competitive market, right. They should create a good image and brand for you, that is what you are looking at. An example is Armani and Lucky Brand sells their clothing only through the top departmental stores that appeal to the affluent customers who buy its merchandise. It does not sell it in a chain mega store or a variety store, right. So, some of the very high class like this Armani and Lucky Brand, like basically the products which it sells it through very high class kind of stores, where only very top notch customers who can shell a lot of payment, like they would want to attract them, and not have this like being sold at like let us say Lifestyle, Big Bazaar, or 10 other big retail sales channels where everybody can walk in, right. Then they lose the value of their brand, right. So, this is an example where we want to sometimes either start low or start that high that we do not want customers coming from all the segments think the same. I had given you the examples of OneSoles, which is as per the selective. If we start selling the same insole online and sell it to the clinician, after a certain point people will find out, right. And this is not the right practice. We want to sell it either through the clinicians or either online. Select on one of the distribution decision, right. Exclusive is just one intermediary. Yeah. So, that is where protected territories for distribution of the product in a given geographical area, business maintains a very tight control of the product. So, this is when we know as a fact we want to sell our OneSoles only through the clinicians of a particular set of hospitals. Let us say I want to sell it only to the through the clinicians in Max Hospital, for example, right. Then in that case I just want to work with them. So, it is a very key exclusive license or a exclusive distribution cell, right. So, typically a franchisor legally requires a franchisee to sell only the franchisor's product. So, Subway is basically selling the Subway products and not selling KFC products, right. So, that is very similarly like you would want your product sometimes to have a very exclusive right of sell by certain sales partners, very well recognized sales partners in the market only, right. So, which one should you select? Intensive, definitely not when you are starting off with a product which is in a niche market, but if you are selling something which is worldwide appealing, go for it. Exclusive can also backfire sometimes. When you have a new product like a wearable device, you are trying to go very exclusive, not knowing how this particular customers may react. So, better is to have at least 2 backup channels ready, that is selective. So, selective is the way to go. That is where you want to position yourself optimally between the intensive and exclusive and take the right, understand the right intermediaries and take the right distribution decision. This is an example of like distribution intensity, where you are looking at Cadbury, which is doing an intensive distribution, where you can see a Cadbury everywhere, in a pharmacy, in a retail store, in a kirana store, in a shopping complex, in a shopping in basically hotels, restaurants, everywhere you can find Cadbury. It's an intensive distribution. It's like every possible channel where you can sell Cadbury, sell it. Chanel, like on the other hand, is a exclusive distribution where very specific stores are only licensed to sell Chanel. It's probably not the same case like latest, because I've seen Chanel being sold at airports as well. But the idea is, if you are having very specific places in which a product is sold, you have a tight control. That is like an exclusive distribution intensity, right? Fourth is involvement in e-commerce, which is also a very important distribution decision to start with, whether you want to get involved in e-commerce or not. So, this is typically means by which products are sold to consumers or customers and industrial buyers through the internet. Customers have also become accustomed to buying products online. This is all a known fact, right? One-stop shopping and substantial savings for industrial buyers, right? Like, so a lot of these online show shoppers or online even wholesalers are there, right? Just there, right? Like, where you can online place options. There is like this India Mart, Just Dial. These are a lot of wholesalers from which you can shop online as well, right? E-marketplaces provide smaller businesses with the exposure that they could not get elsewhere, right? So many a times e-marketplaces, like I've said, if you're a startup, you're trying to sell a certain type of non-harmful something which is not very regulated, kind of some medical component, or like some kind of devices which are majority of the things in the healthcare space, you have to be careful while trying to sell it on Amazon or something like that. But there could be simple things like some basically some insoles for better cushioning. That is not a medical per se, but it is for betterment of the health. So you're still in the healthcare space. So insoles for better cushioning can be sold over Amazon, or can be sold over some kind of an online shop like Flipkart. So I've seen like ShapeCrunch. This is this example of this company I take because I also work in the domain of insoles. They were trying to sell everything through the clinicians, and right now I see a lot of their products which are sold on Amazon also. I'm sure they have changed their distribution decisions, and a lot of these products are now sold on Amazon, right? This may not be the same product which they sell through the clinicians, but that's an option which they've chosen, and a lot of these startups are doing the same. These days you would find even products like food products which are sold from these e-commerce marketplaces like Big Basket. You have so many, even Amazon Fresh Foods and things like that, right? So involvement in e-commerce is specifically a decision you have to make, whether you should start with it or go at a later stage. These are some of the decision points you have to take as an entrepreneur. So the next topic which we are going to talk about in this aspect, we have just completed talking about the distribution channels. Next thing is we want to understand about lead generation, customer acquisition and customer retention. How do you identify leads? How do you make sure you can do the customer acquisition and retain those customers? So the step one is lead generation. So what are leads? We are all humans. There are certain ways to grab attention because we are so busy with our lives. We have 100 things to do. So something has to grab our attention which caters to our needs, right? So if I want to pursue a certain kind of course and a big banner is grabbing my attention, and I feel like this is exactly what I want to do, then I could be enrolled or be paying for that service, right? Or if there is a particular medical equipment need or surgical flaw, like in a certain kind of surgery, and I'm looking at a banner or a product which is a much more improvised version, as a clinician I would think that this has grabbed my attention. There is a new app which you are trying to build which is solving some existing problems. like mental health issues or things like that, healthcare, fitness, which is very, very unique, that will grab my attention, right? Something non-unique is not going to grab our attention. So once something grabs our attention, next we as humans, we become visitors of either websites or stores or particular locations where this things have grabbed our attention, and finally we become potential customers who can pay for this particular product or services. So this is the usually the span of things which happens from the customer end, who is you are envisioning would possibly buy your product or service, right? So typically the role of the lead comes when you are a visitor and you are trying to possibly become a customer. This is where the lead or chasing the lead is very, very important, because once you are a visitor on something, let us say you are a visitor of a website. So Google Analytics and a lot of things can be used to find out who are the visitors, where are they from. Maybe in certain cases they would take some information from you, have a phone number or email ID, right? Like they would need you to log into so many websites or apps before you can use them. Then they have their information. So that is how you chase a lead. That is to make sure that the visitors do not remain visitors, they are actually customers, right? So if you are trying to sell this medical supplies through a particular website and you have visitors and you have taken down their phone numbers, now you can cold call them or probably visit them at a certain point of time that you had put your address and other details. So I am just visiting you from the company just to showcase some of the products or leave the brochure with you. Please let us know if you would be interested. That is chasing a lead. Okay. So this is how you create leads during the visiting segment, visiting phase of the customer. This is the journey from them not knowing about your brand to checking you out, to them becoming a lead, to them becoming your customer, right? So as a startup, these are very, very important aspects. So many a times it would happen that many of us, many of the customers, we may have reached out during the customer discovery, and majority of them are new customers. They have no idea what we are offering, right? And you have either showcased your brand during the customer discovery phase or the product testing phase, or the prototype showcase phase, or different stages of your product development and processing, right? And or your product is fully developed and you are trying to build a brand, and they have seen your product and then they are checking your product out with some enthusiasm. That is the right time to strike with your key deals to convert them or lead them to the journey of becoming a customer, right? Or giving them a reason to pay for your product. So typically the journey is like this: unknown to a visitor, to a lead, to a customer, right? So this is the journey which we are looking at from the lead generation standpoint to the further customer acquisition and finally to retention. A visitor is typically somebody who is checking out your website, your funnel, or social media. So you may have this nice page with your clinical services which you are providing. Maybe you are starting a new homeopathic clinic, or starting a new clinic with certain medical equipments for certain tests. So many of us have existing clinics, or we are doctors, or like clinicians, like dental surgeons or dentists, like with different degrees and areas of expertise. We are trying to establish ourselves as an entrepreneur by not building a product, let's say, or by not building an app, but by really scaling up our clinic and making sure I can offer something niche. Many of the students here may be from that segment. So here you want to make sure that they check out your social media or something which you have posted, or they're able to look at a brochure in the front of your clinic and be really impressed, right? Then they're checking you out. So from the visitor, the lead is they give their email ID or phone number in exchange of something free. So what they're getting for free? Probably a free brochure or a free look at your website, or a free email which you send to them, like automatically your system generated, and things like that. That's how you develop the leads, right? Finally, they become the customer when they have brought something from you and they have paid to you. That is how they convert to becoming a customer, right? So this definition hopefully is very clear, Whenever you hear the term lead, that's not your ultimate customer. This is where you're trying to lead a visitor. There has been a visitor, you're trying to lead them towards becoming a customer. Maybe 20% or 30% conversion may happen, or maybe it could be 90% conversion. There are cases where you have less than 4% or 5% conversions. That depends that how do you lead them. Are you able to offer within that small window something which is very unique, right? The idea is very similar to convincing a VC or somebody who you are seeking funding from. You want to also convince them, can I offer something really worthwhile or valuable through my product or service which the customers will be willing to buy? How am I going to convert my leads to the customers? This is a very important aspect which the funders would be looking at. So, something to pay attention to. Finally, the journey, this is done by sales funnels or simply a funnel. Funnel, what is a funnel? We have used funnel to put oil and other things like into certain smaller containers where we have a big bucket, we are pouring water or some liquids. Funnel is basically where you're trying to converge or bring somebody into order, right? Like you're trying to have somebody with a varied interest who is a possible visitor and bring their attention span and make them go through the funnel and have them become a customer, right? That's the funneling effect. So, some kind of sales funnel you to attract them and make sure they can get you, you can have them converted, right? Next is maximize. So, humans typically you grab attention and then you have the visitor, then you have the lead, then you possibly become a customer, like So, you have to maximize on grabbing attention, maximize on the visiting aspect and maximize on the lead chasing aspect. These are some of the marketing activities which you do. Maybe if you have a Facebook page, you want to post something nice, let's say limited discounts for the next 5 days if you enroll into this program, or buy this much worth of medical supplies or devices, things like that, or there is a Diwali bonus, or there is a all of a sudden like closer to India Day or things like that, like there are so many business tactics which you can do to make sure you can attract the customers. Like a lot of these coaching companies will give you scholarships. So, earlier they would charge you 50,000 rupees, now they want to charge you 80,000 rupees and give you a 30,000 scholarships. But just hearing the term scholarships, you feel very nice in your ego. You feel like, oh, I am getting the scholarships. That is a way of chasing the lead, right? That I am studying on a scholarship, even if I am paying the same money, I have a scholarship, right? So, these are some ways to maximize what you are being offered, right? Sometimes again coming back to the coaching centers, they will have an exam just for the sake of it, right? Because if you just come in like that, you would feel like, oh, this is not a worthwhile experience, right? They give the exams sometimes just as a dummy that, okay, now you pass the exam, now we give you 40% scholarship. Now you feel even more thrilled that I have passed this exam, I have secured 40% scholarships. But sad story, this was just a show of getting you from the lead as a visitor to a customer, right? They're using the right business tactics. This may not be the case with all the coaching institutes and retails. This is just an example of possible business tactic, right? So, this can be the same when you are browsing through the app, like referral programs, where if you refer this first customer to buy our medicines or medical supplies worth of 1000 rupees, we will give you 50% discounts in your next order. So, now you are sending your referral link or referral email to hundreds of your friends on Facebook, having just 1 or 2 persons buy something and then you get 50% discount, right? So, these are some ways of maximizing the lead exposure. Second is customer acquisition. So, the customer acquisition, we have also talked about this during the branding phase. This is one of the key aspect and which links between the branding and having the customer actually fall in for your products or come in for your products. The starting phase starts with the discovery and the interest, which is the awareness phase. The customers have to be first of all aware that your product is of some value to them and they need to have showcase some interest in your product. If that is not the case, there is no point of overselling or trying to like give it to the customers or probably going behind them, that's a waste of your company's effort or your sales efforts. Once they are in the awareness phase, the next thing is they are typically in the research and intent phase kind of, right. So, they will be researching your product further. So, just think about, I will give you a very common example. You have this issue with there is some kind of an eating habit issue or some kind of a lifestyle issue. Let us say your infant is not gaining weight, right. You have seen, let us say, 5 or 6 doctors in your own hospital and in few hospitals, and you are not very convinced, right. So, the next thing which you do is you look for referrals from other stakeholders, like there could be some recent parents where their infants have now grown up or gained weights, right, like so, and then you want to ask them that which are the doctors have you seen, please tell us, and they tell you this XYZ doctor and this locality is a good doctor, you may go and check them out. So, what is the next thing which you do? You look this doctor on Google and you try to check through the reviews. All of a sudden you see 5 or 6 shabby reviews and you are like, oh no, something is probably wrong, right. So, that is the research phase in which you have an interest in doing something and you are aware that you need a particular doctor for taking care of this condition or having a consulting of that doctor. You have researched a little bit, but you are still considering your research. After looking at 5 or 6 bad reviews, after like 2 or 3 good reviews, you may change your mind and ask few more of your colleagues that can you have some referral. Now, you collect all your referrals, like let us say you have 6 or 7 referrals, you look through all of these, research through all of these profiles. Out of these profiles, let us say one person stands out who has a flawless record, everybody has given a great review. So, now you go for that person. So, this is where your intention is to go for somebody who has a good review and somebody is referred it. This is what a typical example is. So, most of us work like this, right. This is the same intent with a product, right. You want to research about that product, look at what is it going to be beneficial and right, and then go for it. So, there is this recent big thing about this stem cell storage and things like that in the hospitals. Wherever there is a childbirth, like or there is a newborn infant, the parents would be given an option for a hefty amount of cost like 50,000 or 70,000 or even more to save their placenta and basically have the stem cell kind of stored. And the way they market it is like basically if your child tends to get cancer or something like in the future, or some kind of debilitating disease, like then this research or this storage of the items can really be helpful. So, they package it in a way that this is for the initial storage, this is the cost. If you want to store it for 30 years or 40 years, you can pay another 15,000, 20,000 rupees. So, this was one example where I started looking up that what exactly is that offering. So, that I was in the research phase, and something which I found out, and I knew at the back of my mind, that stem cell research is something which is still in the research phase. There has not been very concrete evidence that something can solve some kind of cancer or other problems. If that was the case, we would not see so many cases out there, right. So, after doing this research, my intention was changed. Everybody from the family and other people who had no idea of what stem cell research was telling me that this is a great thing to go for. Please, for 70,000 or 50,000 rupees, do not think twice. This is the future of your child, right. Just give you a very live example of technologies which come up. Then after my research, what I decided, this is my personal understanding, not saying anything wrong or good about the technology, it may be standing ground somewhere, but my personal choice kind of changed after researching and having the prior knowledge of where stem cell research is. Now I know that this is not going to do me any benefit. So, I was like, this is just a waste of my money, I am not going to do that, right. So, even after hearing so many referrals where everybody was going for this, I changed my mind. So, as a customer, they could not change me and lead me to becoming a customer, right. So, this is the stage in which, the consideration stage, we have to be careful what we offer, how genuinely can we offer that. Let's not offer something which is unrealistic, because the customers will eventually find it out if we are trying to offer something or manipulate certain things. So it is a general request to all the entrepreneurs, like who are listening to me, to work on value propositions which are genuine, because you are going to go very, very long term. Let's not try to make a very quick buck out of things, or think of like just 5 months or 6 months, let us promise them something, later on we'll see how we can somehow take care of it. Let us not do that. Let us try to make sure that whatever we promise is well researched, because the customers are also going to research that, and it is well promised, we are able to deliver that in the later stage. Otherwise it is going to backfire and our company is going to get bankrupt, right? So I have given you quite a few examples. Next comes, after the consideration phase, is the purchase phase, when I am convinced that this technology is really good, and this typically comes with a lot of conviction of the customers. And finally, after the conversion and the purchase has been made, whether that purchase was really worthwhile, that comes in later. Whether this after sales service which I had promised as an entrepreneur, am I able to do that, or am I just not picking up phone calls once I have made the sales? This has happened to many of us, right? Like a lot of us are writing on Facebook and Twitter and things like that. We are sometimes tagging the consumer court that I feel completely cheated, or I do not feel very good that I bought this product and they said they would have some warranty or sales service, and now they are not even picking my calls, right? So we do not want to be in that seat running a company like that, right? You always want to be approachable in order to lead to the next step, which is loyalty and the customer retention. Customers are going to keep on expanding and keep on getting retained, and having multiple buys and purchases in the future, only if you offer them the value which you promised consistently. Okay, so these are the different stages of lead generation, and to make sure you can get to the point of customer acquisition and retention. So the different stages are defined like this. Awareness is when a customer discovers and becomes interested in you. I have explained this already. Consideration is when a customer begins research with the intent to buy. Conversion is when a customer actually makes a purchase. Retention is when a customer buys again and a loyal relationship is developed, right? So these are as far as the definitions are concerned, and I have already explained them with several examples. There are several paid customer acquisition strategies. So there are a lot of tricks and strategies, because it's such a cluttered market. It is so difficult to vouch for certain products where you have similar products in the market. How do you make sure that you can really stand out? So some examples of these strategies include the pay per click, like which is known as PPC ad campaigns, right? So many a times you would want, if you are vouching for a new kind of product, you can sometimes have the customers like in a website, say if you click in this 5 locations and say see this particular website, we will give you 30% discount or 20% discount, right? Or sometime we tie up with certain companies, will put your ads, right? So let's say if you are going for a coaching kind of company website, they have maybe tied up with certain pharmacies and hospitals or institutions, and they will keep on throwing ad, this is this so and so private institution which is great in medical education. It may not be, right? But that's how they have tied up, and they have probably sponsored these ads, and so more these ads are seen, and sometimes customers will click them by mistake. This is another thing many of us may have observed, and I have seen this personally in the last few years. So sometimes intentionally the companies put the ads in such a location that you will click them by mistake, right? Happens with a lot of bank apps. I just start the bank app, and before I can even get to my accounts, I have clicked on some home loan or something like by mistake, and that is very, very scary. It may trigger something without my consent, right? So these are the things we want to avoid. We want to make sure that clicks or ads are relevant, and they are giving the right rights to the customers, otherwise they would think of never visiting that website because it's full of spams and these kind of apps, right? So you have to be careful. Okay, this will be all for today's lecture. So we are going to pick it up from here in the next session. So thank you very much all. See you again.